Welcome to putting a website together with Photoshop and Dreamweaver. Okay, so what I've got here is just a website, and you see it's a liquid site. It's got rollovers here, and basically this will be a 4-page site with a logo and some type here with some nice little effects on it. And it's responsive, and you see when I go from my screen version or desktop version and we get into more from a responsive design, there it is going into the phone format and also changing the colors. And what I've got here, if I just close back out of this one, you see where I've started from my Photoshop file. Of course, you can change your design as you go along as well. Easy to put the banners in there and things like that. We're going to put this double column together, but also a single column when it goes responsive. And if you have a look on this side, if I look down here, I've just got some type that's put in here, and in fact I'll turn that off, and everything's in folders. I've got my logo at the top there, and down the bottom, if I just go to my footer, I've just got some footer text and just panels here. And let's see if we turn that on, and I'll close that up. And right down the bottom here is I've just got my background image, and it's just labeled as a JPEG. You'll see my logo here is labeled as a ping, and this is a secret of putting this together. And if I go to my aside panel, so if we just go through and have a look at what this aside is, and now I'm just going to come through here and just drag this down onto here just to show you what we're talking about. So we're working with HTML convention, HTML5 convention. We've got a header, we've got a nav, we've got a side, an article, and a structure, and then a footer. And this is all the structure here with HTML, opening and closing. We've got our header, page information, but all the stuff, and here it is just contained with this in the body. All the stuff you see here is in the body. Now, what I'm doing is just building the structure here with the graphics that sit on the page, and then we've just got this big background, but it's going to be really flexible in how it moves. So that's just putting together with the structure there and the HTML and the CSS. Now let's just go and have a look at this again and just put it back together. So there's my Photoshop file. So I'm just going to export it, and I've labeled these things as a JPEG. I've labeled my ping here at the top, my logo, with a dot ping, and that's the secret. And in my side section panel, you'll see the only thing I wanted here was actually just this logo graphic down the bottom. Could be done with CSS, but essentially just going to make it nice and simple. So that's what we're doing. Now all I have to do is, if I label it with a ping, if I come over here, and what I need to do is just go generate image assets. If I go and click on that, and if I just minimize that down here, this just made this folder here, and there's my two graphics there that I've put in here. But I actually haven't got a background. Now, why didn't I get the background? Let's just go and have a look at this again. So just make sure that this is set up, and it's a JPEG, a ping. We could have a GIF as well. So if I just go through, I'm going to do it once more. So it is labeled as a JPEG, and I'm just going to go to generate image assets once again. So let's just go and have a look and see what happened here. And there you go. It's redone it again, and somehow I missed it out the first time. But all these I put together. So ping, this is a JPEG because it's just a graphic, nice and relatively simple, 10K. The logo's a reasonable size, good quality. It won't make it scalable. Let's have a look at this. 2.6 megabyte. Are you kidding me? Now that's getting a little bit big. So generally doing this is fine, but the problem is that sometimes when you've got these great big areas, do we need it to be that high definition? No, we don't really. It's just a background web page. It's not going to have type on there. It's quite a loose graphic. So in that case, what I'm going to do is just turn off everything here. So we've just got just the background, making sure that's on this time, which I didn't do the first time. Turn that on so you can see it, and only that. And then we can actually go and we can export here. And what you see, we've got safer web legacy, and that's still really, really good to use, because within that, I do want a JPEG. I don't want an 80 quality, and see the size it's giving me here. No, we don't need that. So I'm just going to just take the quality down to about, let's say about 33, see how that goes. And if I click outside that, I don't want any blur on this one. and see how the size has dropped enormously. And if I have a look through here, just making sure that's an optimized view, it still looks okay. So really you can take it as far as you need to do it, because file size is really important. And now I just need to go save, and really what I want to do is just save that, and I'm going to just save that into the same folder. So what I'm doing here is just going through there, and I just want to make sure that it goes into my site folder where I'm containing everything. So just down there, sites, and in this one I've just put in WEBSTART, and what I want to do is just my images here. Well, actually I'm going to go and just go to this one because that was the one that was large, and I'm just going to do background, and I just want to replace that. So background, we've got everything we need, and it's going to be much more than 2.6 megabytes, and I'm just going to replace that. So let's just go. We actually don't really need the Photoshop file here, but I'll just turn everything back on. There it is, like so. Well, not for the time being, we needed these assets. Now if I click on that, let's see, that's a much better file size. I could even be perhaps smaller, but for the sake of doing this, this is fine. So what I want to do is I'm just going to remove my images folder there, and I'm just going to call this where I'm sourcing my images from, images. And so that is the image folder now, and if I just come back into playing that, it should still link up nicely, and there it is, all fully responsive. We've got our CSS and our HTML, and everything's going back even to what's called media queries and breakpoints. So this is what we're doing in putting this together. What I've got is I can remove that Photoshop file now because we don't want that. Just got a video down here. The structure I did before, and basically here's our images folder. Now that's really all we want. I have another folder here which is a downloaded font, and this is from Google Fonts actually, and you'll see that this is just a TrueType font here, and it comes with its own style sheet. So we'll see how this works in a little bit, but let's just, for the time being, I'm just going to remove all of these things. In fact, the only thing I want is my graphics at the top here. So I'm just going to create this, and just for the time being, I'm just going to put not use, just so we can see really clearly where everything is. So what I do want is just my images folder, and I don't want that HTML page either. So here we are. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to go through and build a site from scratch with Dreamweaver. So I'm going to open up Dreamweaver just out of sight here a little bit, and just going to see that structure and how it all goes together. So because I moved that out, it might have just changed my view because I've lost the links there, but we're going to start off with a new site anyway, just to fit with WebStart. So as Dreamweaver opens up here, just got, it's actually still 2021 in terms of the way that most of it works, but it's still going fine. Of course, there's a big change with the way the fonts work in this. So it doesn't work with Edge fonts like it used to in the past. And of course, nothing opened up here. It didn't work too well because I've moved my home graphics here. So anyway, I'm just going to close that, just go back to scratch here. So there's just nothing there, and I'll just bring this into view just a little bit. So Dreamweaver and files here. So I can't really find any of those things, but hey, who cares? Let's start off with a new one. So the first thing I want to do with my graphic here, as it still tries to find that, is, it doesn't matter there because I've missed it. As anyway, by the way, you can have as many sites as you want, and really that's what it is in here, but we're going to create our own here. So I'm going to come down through just in my site here, and I'm going to come along and I'm going to go to new site. Now you can also do it from on the right up here, and just out of view here, it'll say site and then new site as well. But I'm just going to do it from the top because it's easy to see for you guys as well. So new site. So I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call it Webby 1, just so we can see and we know that it's definitely new there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that. Now we're going to save that to, well, let's make sure we save it into the right folder here. So I'm just going to click on this just so I can access the folders. and I'm going to go into my WEBSTART here where everything was, and I'm just going to save it directly into here. Okay, we could do another folder, but I just want to access that navigation, so there it is. I've got everything that I'm not using at the moment. Okay, and I'm just going to go save. Okay, so the root folder has changed here, so not to worry about this one, just because I've got a few extra things in there, but here it goes, and it's going and building that up at the moment. Okay, now I do have a video in that file as I'm building this up as well, but don't worry, and these are just other folders. So don't worry about those, we've just got our structure here. So, first thing we want to do is we've got our site structure, which is really important, and you'll see that these all are the graphics here, but what I want to do is I just want to go through and I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to build a web page. So I'm going to go new. Now what I said is a web page, so I don't want to about CSS or all these other things. We're just going to say really simple. We're not going to create a template, we're building it from scratch, so I just want an HTML. Now we also have Bootstrap, which enables you to do all sorts of cool Bootstrap stuff as well, but we're going to build this all ourselves. Just want to really stay with HTML and CSS for this one. So anyway, just none, HTML, and I'm going to give it a title here, and I'm just going to call this home. Usually you do it index, but I'm just going to stay nice and simple for this one and just home. Index is what search engines look for. No style sheet or anything at this stage, and I'm going to go create. And here's my blank document. Now you see what's happening here if you remember that initial structure that we had here. So if I just come back and show you that structure, this is really what it's doing. The structure, of course, there's nothing in there and we don't have any stuff in there at the moment. So we're going to build something like that and just put that together here. So nothing here at the moment. So let's just have a bit of a look at that. So if I was just to type in and just click up here, for example, you see that it's actually highlighting there by the body. If I just watch what happens when I just type something in there. So what I'm going to do is up the top here, I'm just going to put logo. Okay, if I type that in there, logo. Okay, and there it appears right in the body structure. Now you can just go through here and just write it straight into the body structure, and that's going to be fine to do it that way as well. Nonetheless, you can see that that's just come through here at the moment. Now this is actually going to be a header, and what you can do within the header here is you can actually start typing in your header, because just coming back to this once again, I'm just going to refer to that. We've got our header, we're going to have a nav, a side, an article, and a structure, and then a footer. And these are HTML5 divs, if you will, just under the different name to help access and work what they are. And it certainly works better with print-based stuff as well. Everything's coming together. So, but what I can do is, if I was to just say, click this at the moment and sort of highlight that, it's probably a little bit fiddly actually sometimes doing it here, but if I just go insert here, and what I can do is just go through and see these different sections here. I'm just going to go header, and if it comes up there, look what it's done. It's put a header either side, and it's definitely made a div box now, and the content goes in here actually. Well, actually I put the header there and it didn't wrap around it, and if I just undo that once more, I'm just going to just highlight that once more and just come back in here, and I'm just going to go header, and quite often it says wrap around there as well, but not to worry, that's what we want. So that's going to be where my logo is, so the header structure here. So I'm just going to say, for example, just cut that out, and I'm going to come back in here and plonk it in there, and there's my logo. Click outside of that, there it is, and it's wrapped in that header, and there it is, that div structure. Now the other thing I'm going to do with my header, I'm going to also do, what was the next one? A nav. Let's try it the other way. Sometimes it's easy just to do it here. So what you do is open and closing brackets. So if I go nav, and if I just close that brackets, watch what happens. There it is here, and of course I'm just going to go something like home. Let's see, I'm going to go to about, work as what I'm putting together, and maybe just contact just for my navigation there. And boom, there it is up the top here. And there's that other section there. Now they can be just lined up there, they don't have to be like that. So let's see, I've got my header, which is my logo is going to be in there. I've got my nav. Now the other thing I'm going to come down here is I'm going to do an aside. So I can come down here and just go aside, and this is where it's asking to wrap round at a certain point, but I don't have anything in there, so I'm just going to go OK. And it's just writing this content for me. So that's fine for what I want to do at this stage. So I'm just going to call this header, or actually heading. And this is going to be an H1 heading. Okay, H1, you have H1 to H6, as it just goes through some major heading through to subheads, etc. We're just going to use an H1 and an H2 today. In fact, just watch what happens. So here's my heading up here. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go H1. So opening and closing, so H1. And if I close that, you'll see what happens. And then it's got the closing as well. So all you have to do is, so it's basically in a box, and then I've got this big heading in the box there. So if you watch what happens when I put it into there, just click outside, there it is, H1 heading, but it's contained in this div. Aside, opening, H1, heading, closing H1, closing aside. So let's see, what else we've got to do here. So if I come back down here, just double click on that. Let's see, we've got our side, we're going to have an article, a structure, and a footer. Okay, so let's go through and put this together. So just down the bottom here, I'll click on that to just keep it in the next line. So just work whatever structure you want to make it simple. I like to make it really clear on the line. And you can also refresh at any stage when you're doing things here. So we're going to do an article this time. So article, ART, and it's actually finding it for me, and I'll just close it, and there you go. Now I'm going to do with something that's just a paragraph text and basically an H2 text. So I'm going to go H2, so just as we did before, this is like a subhead, if you will, and just close that with the closing, and I'll just put what I'm going to do, just so call it subhead. Makes it nice and simple, and you can just refresh if it hasn't done so already, but there's that next stage. So remember that we've got everything in the body. This is all the stuff. So that's the only stuff we see here. So within this next one, I'm just going to do just a paragraph text this time. So P for paragraph, and just close that off, and there it is there, and this is paragraph text. There you go, and I'll just refresh that, and it's actually broken down, but everything's sort of in this little box here. But really the boxes, or the div, the proper boxes, are the things that are contained with a side, article, and of course in sections, which we're going to do one more for this, which is going to be now section. So you can insert, remember, at any stage. We might just go and do this one. Let's see, we'll do a section, this one, and there it is, wrap around, session point's fine. There's the section, and just the next one will be just the footer. So I'm going to do this one, footer, and just close that off. And I'm going to call it official site, and just refresh. So there's our structure for the page, and nothing much at this stage, but let's start formatting it, and we're going to do that just the next stage. Apart from maybe a spelling mistake, so I'm just going to come down here and make sure you check all your spelling, and that's better, and refresh that. Right, let's start putting this together. Now the first thing we're going to do is we need to save that. So I'm just going to go File and Save, and of course this will appear up here in just a minute. this is our site here, and remember I could call this one index page for the really start page, but I'm just going to go home for the sake of putting this together, and I'm just going to go save. And there it is. There's our first HTML page, and that needs to be saved there. And here's our structure. Now the first thing I want to do is just put in sort of a background. So when you want to start creating because we've actually created the structure, to be honest with you, but now when we want to start putting all our graphics in here and get it going nicely together, what we need to do is actually now use the design tools. So at the moment we've only got just an HTML page and nothing else up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a CSS. So you'll see that I've just got my main three things here up. It's Files, Insert, and Designer. Any tabs at any stage you can just remove them out and bring them back in. But anyway, I just wanted those three to keep them simple. So Files. We're going to build something with our CSS designer in just a minute. Let's come down here, and basically to get this going, I'm just going to highlight the body. And I could highlight all the body because it's really to do with everything. Just really want to get that tag body. So that's why it's good to highlight, because then you know what you're talking about. So come over to your CSS designer here, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a CSS. So to do that, I'm just going to click Add CSS, and I'm going to go to Create a New File here, and just click OK. So I'm going to call this Webby. You call it whatever you want, but make sure dot there, CSS. So Webby Cascading Style Sheet, and we're going to link it. See, there's no links up here at the moment, but you watch what happens when I go OK. And there you go. Link, href, which is linking it. It's a link sort of tag that we use. Webby CSS, it's a style sheet, and we're good to go with that. Okay, so the other thing here is we've got our Webby style sheet, and I want to add in a selector. So let's go to add a selector here, and look at that, because we had the body selected, it's actually choosing the body there. We don't want the P, we just want all the body at this stage, and we're going to add something in here. And I'll just hit the return key there. Okay, I'll click outside of that, and then I can just click on the body. Now if I just move this up, so I'll click on back here again, what we've got here is our properties. So just bring those up, and you can slide them up. They just get there, and just bring it up a little bit better. Now if you don't see anything, well, if you see it like this, it shows set, but we don't have anything selected. So just make sure you tick this off just to begin with, and we're going to add something in here. Now the body, the first thing I want to bring in my background, which is this large background, and I'm going to click on just here, background. So because it's a background, we can have colors, we can have gradients, all sorts of things, but I just want a background image. So I want to click from my source file here, and here it is going into the image folder, which I want to click on that. I want to include my background, nice and small background, and there it is bringing it in. Okay, now what we want to do is we want this to be nice and fluid and working and changing in size. So I don't want it to repeat, so I'm going to have no repeat. By the way, you see what's happening here? In fact, I might just click on that just to begin with. Here is our tag that's coming in, background image, and it's URL, and it's pulling it in here. But watch what happens as we go through here and just put this together a little bit. So back onto the body, just to click it. So what I want to do is, just with the body tag, I don't want it to repeat. So repeat, no repeat. And you see what it's got? No repeat. Let's see what else we want to do here. We want to bring it down here, and let's see, we want to size it so it's accordingly going to sort of be a little bit more flexible within the way it works here. So just with the positions here, I want to get my my background size. I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to come down here. I just want it to cover, so it's always covered. Now that's great. And the other thing is I don't want it to scroll. I want it to just be, the whole background to be visible at the same stage here. So if you look down here, and what we just need to find is one that says no scroll. So background, position, background clip, repeat, background origin, background attachment, and there we go. See, it's coming up scroll. I don't want scroll, I want it to be fixed. So I'm just going to come up now, and oh, by the way, see this asterisk here? Now we've got two sources, two files. We don't want to just go save, we want to go save all. And see that asterisk has gone away. So let's go and just check it now. So I can click on my preview now. This is just a new area here to click on. So I click on that. It should just come up here and, oh, now just down the bit out of view down here, and I just want to click on Safari or Chrome or something like that, and it should just load up. And see what I mean about fix? It's not scrolling, the background stays fixed, but it moves around, so we can just get the whole image to fit in there. Straight away we're starting to get some sort of design coming together. So that's the background. Let's start going and formatting the content now. So the next part we'll do that. So I'm just going to close that, and let's come back in here, and there is our CSS, and of course we've saved it and there's no asterisk there, so both are saved, and of course it's linked. And we've got our panel, we can build it. We can also build it by just typing in here. And sometimes it's good to go backwards and forwards as you're getting more used to doing that. So let's see. We've got our body sorted. We've got a whole lot of extra structure in here. So if I just click on that, and this is basically all the different div tags or boxes: header, nav, aside, article, structure, and footer. So we've got a few of them. Let's go through and start building this together now. So let's come back into the source, and this is the HTML. Now all I want this time is just my header here, and this is where the logo is. So if I just highlight that, you can click it there, but it's easier to do it at this stage. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the header structure here. We can actually go through and we're going to do some specific names for class files. So we can use IDs, which are hash key, or just a dot for a class file, but just for the header, there's only one header, so that's really all we need. So with that selected, I just come back over here and I'm going to click on my selectors and go once again. Header. Now I don't want the body, because we've got the body there. It's very specific, we don't need to be that specific. We've only got one body here. But now I'm going to start working with the body. Now let's see what we can do here is if I just click onto my layout, which is already on there anyway, what I want to do is the width of this. And we want to have it a fluid width and not right to the edge like so. So what I'm going to do for a start is I'm going to go to the width and I'm going to click in here. And no matter what the size is, I'm working with 100% of the total size, be it small or be it wide. So I want to stay with a percentage of whatever the screen size is. So not auto, but percentage. So we can click on percentage there. And I'm going to type in 70%. Oh, not 770, 70, and hit the return key. Okay, so if I just click on my header just up here, and because it's just the header, so I'm going to come back into just this one. This is, see what it's done there? It's 70%, we've got 30% on either side. Well, that's not quite what I want, because I want it to be 70 right, but I want it to be centered. So to get that working, we can come into our margins here. And I'm just going to just click the whole lot. We don't want pixels. Let's see, 70 plus what equals 100? 30. So we're going to do it even. So I'm going to go 15 and make sure when you're working with percent, you put your percent in. 15 on that side. See what's happened there, but make sure we do it on the other side as well. And 15%. So there we go, and hit the return key. So that one's sorted. And I also want whatever the type is going to be there, I also want it to be in the center. So even though this is type, we're going to use a logo soon, but I'm going to click into my type here because I just want that to be centered. And kaboom, there it is. So what I'm going to do is now I'm not going to, well, I'll leave the type there just for the time being, but essentially what I can do is I can insert a graphic. So insert, there we are at the top there. let's see, what do we want? Oh, image. It's an image, that's what I want. So I'm going to search to the same folder there, and I want my logo. So it's a ping file, it's transparent. So I open that up, and there it is, like so. So I'm not going to use basically my CSS for this one. I'm just going to use my properties here. So if the property's not visible, you can just go down there and you should see properties. So if it's not there, you can turn it on. But what I want to do is, that's a little bit big. I think I'm going to make that about 350. I've also got it restrained there, so keep that on, just so it doesn't get distorted within its size there. I'm just working with basically just my pixel size. So 350, could be a bit more, 350. No, I think I like the size of that. So that's great. Now, let's have a look here. There it is there. It's a source, image source, and it's located it. And, oh, hold it, we better come into our alt tag here, and I'm just going to call it logo. Could be more specific about what sort of logo it is, but there it is, and that's fine at that stage. So that's great. So one thing I don't want is that text there anymore, so I'm just going to delete it out. Oops, delete. That should be good, and just refresh, and there you go. So we've got our logo in place here. So what we're going to need to do is start putting things in place here and get that formatting together so it looks efficient. So let's go through and do our nav. So the same thing, there's our nav. I'm just going to come down here, and I'm going to come up to my selectors here and just add another selector. Plus, look, nav there. Don't want the body, I just want the nav. And that's great. And just hit the return key there and click on the nav, and there it is here. So I do want to keep it centered. I'm going to go to my type here, and just down in there I just want to have it centered there. We're going to keep it nice and simple with a type style as well. So I'm just going to use just good old web-based formats, and then you get a range of things. Now I've also got some web fonts here, and you might not see those because you haven't loaded those in there, but and I've got a range of fonts here, but I'm just going to do something that's classic on pretty much every machine here. So if I just come back here, and I'm just going to double click on that, and I'm just going to go Verdana, and just hit the return key, and there we've got nice Verdana type, which is a good web-based font anyway. So I'm just going to stay with that for the time being, putting this together. And as you see, we're starting to get that format starting to happen here. So we're going to change some colors and get this sort of working quite nicely in just a minute, and then we're going to link it up with our actionable navigational system. So let's see, we've got this here. What are we going to do with this? I think it's probably not working that great at the moment. I'm going to create something a little bit more unique at this stage. In fact, I'm going to change the color first. So color, look at this, color. And I've got a whole lot of colors here already from what I've been using before, but what you can do is you can click any colors here and you just add them and they become part of this set. So you can just add your color and it'll be part of the set, but I'm just going to stay with what I've got here for the time being, and I'm just going to go just white at that stage. So if I just click outside that, there you go, it's got white text. Now the other thing is, as I put this together, what I want to do is I want to divide out each of these graphics so they become their own set, if you will. So we're going to then actually get them working as unique individual things. So to start off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link on them. So let's come through here, and I'm just going to highlight just that graphic here, and you'll see when I highlight that there's a link. And I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to type in what all those links are going to be. Home.html, there's the first one, and just hit return, and there it's a link graphic. I'm going to come through to this one, just make sure you're just getting the about one. And because I'm just really dividing them up just to make it nice and simple. And the next link, which will just be about. Make sure you do type in your HTML page, hit the return key, and of course it's gone to a default blue link, and that's why you're seeing that at the moment. And I'll just go to the work.html, and then finally just the contact. So they're actual links. Now, what we're going to do right at the end is design one page and then just duplicate that page so that it's all got the same structure and works great, and then we can just change the graphics on the page. So much easier to work that way. So anyway, I just click on the final one there and contact. So that's better, and I'll hit the return there. So we've got all our pages basically linked here. And now if you come down here, you see what we've got? We've got home, we've got, and it's linked to that, and href, and the A tag is when you're putting in an anchor tag, if you will, and it's all the way through. What we're going to start doing now is actually just designing the graphics and the look and feel for it. But essentially, we've got our links in place. Okay, so the link's in place, and let's just have a look at this graphic up here. Great, there's separate little boxes, you see, and there is the basically whole nav. And if I click onto the top one there, and you should be able to get the graphic. In fact, if I come along and just go up to my header there, and I just highlight that, you should see, there is the header there. Hold it, this is 70%, and this link down the bottom here is actually doing the whole page. Well, I'll tell you what, we don't need to do everything as separate. We can actually bring things as a part of the set. So to make this easier, you'll see if we come down into the code area here, remember it's just the body that we're worried about. Everything is the stuff inside. But I've got my nav and there's my header. Now, I want to actually get my nav inside my header. It makes it a lot simpler. So to do that, I'm just going to come along here and put a box within a box, if you will. So how do you do that? I'm just going to cut that out. And just at the end of the nav here, I'm just going to return that. And I'm just going to paste it in here. And maybe just, I'm going to divide up just a bit simpler now so we can see things. And I'll bring that in there. So essentially, the header is a big box, and inside that is the navigation. So if I click on the navigation now, see how the navigation is now 70%. So we're taking on those same attributes. Much simpler to put this together. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. Let's go and format this graphic now. So just in here, if I just click on that like so, we can get the actual graphic here, and this is where I can actually start putting in a class or an ID, and I'm going to use class files. So watch what happens with that. In fact, I might come down here and also click on the CSS, which has been updating as we've been doing these things. Oh, asterisks. What does that mean? It means we go to save all. Okay, great. Everything is saved at the moment, and there is the CSS, the nav, the colors, we're putting it together. So just down here, I'm just going to highlight that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a class to it. So here I can go through and I can actually click on this. So I haven't created anything here in the selectors at this stage, it's just the nav. I'm doing it actually through here now. So I'm going to click on class. I'm going to type a class as a dot file. So it goes dot, and seeing it's the nav, I'm going to go nav. Actually, I'm going to camel case it. So I'm going to go nav, all small, nav, then cap, and I'm going to call that H for home. And just so you can actually see, I better spell that correctly, just so you can actually see the words and how they break down, you have the capital to just for showing the next word there. So it's called camel casing. And I can just hit return. Okay. Or what's happening here? It's coming up and saying, where do you want to save this? I do want to save it to Webby CSS, and great, there it is. So if I just come down here, and it should be just in the view that's just there. So Webby there, that's good, it's ticked there, and it should be just down here, and if I just drag, oops, there it is, just down the bottom here. My new style that I've put in there. Okay, my new selector. So with this one, as you see, it's not really working too well with the colors and things like that. So let's see if I can click on that, and I'll just click on the properties to bring them back up if you don't see them. Let's see what can we do here. Well, the first one, I want to create a little bit of a color behind that graphic. So I'm going to click on here, and this is my background colors, and background color nothing defined. And of course there's my set, and you can actually choose your colors. Remember, start adding them in there. So I just want to get some colors that are coming along into this. So I think I'll go down to that color there, and there it is, and just click outside that, and there it is. I've got a color behind it, which is good because it's sort of highlighting that at the moment. So, but it's not too good because it's a little bit small here. So what can we do? Well, just in the graphic here, I'm going to click back into just my page layout, and we're going to look at margins in a sec. First thing, I want some padding. I want some padding around there. So I'm going to link it at the moment, and I'm just going to drag that out until it starts looking quite good. Okay, and I quite like that. In fact, I'm just going to make it, say, even a bit bigger, like so, but I don't like it at the top so much, so I'm going to unlink it, and I'm just going to drag that down till I see it looking as I want. So you can do that. The other thing, or maybe I'll just do a little bit more, make it say 10, because you can type that in as well. In fact, I might do it this time. So 10, and just hit the return key. There it is. And what I want to do is a little curve on that. So let's see, a little curve on that. What can I do with this one? Padding, position. No, that's not the right one. What about this one? Oh, look at that. Okay, so I'm just on the third one, the border. What I want to do is I just want to keep it unlinked, and I just want to drag that across and see what's happening there, just to give some style to that button. So that's great. So I've got my first graphic coming in here, and it's starting to look good, but it's getting close to the other stuff as well. So I'm going to come back just to this first one here, and I want to create a little bit of a margin, and I'm just going to just drag that out a little bit, maybe 10, that's pretty good, and 10 the other side. Now remember, you can come back and change this at any stage, and you can start doing it down here. So if we were to come down here, see what it's doing there, and you start getting used to it, and you can start writing directly into that. So I'm getting that button nicely formatted at the moment. I don't know if I like that text with the underline there, so what can we do with the text? I can click on the text here, and that particular color at the moment, which is, I might like that, but see what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep it white at this stage, and I'll click outside of that, and there's the text color, which is just, if I've got the right one still selected there, make sure that I haven't clicked off that. So I just might undo that again. Easy to do. Make sure you're in the nav, and text color, and I'm just going to change that and make it white there, and just click outside of that. There you go. Now the other thing is, I don't want this underline here. So that's under text decoration, and you can click just none, and see there it is, none at the moment. So we don't have any rollover effects. We're going to build that at the moment, but you can see what you've put together there with that particular button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and just create these other selectors, and I'm not going to reinvent the wheel because there's a lot of stuff you have to put in there. We can just copy and paste it. So this is where it'll come in easier doing the text. So let me show you how that works. So, we better save that. Look, asterisks. So I'm going to come over here and just go save all. That's great. And now I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Okay, so got that, and I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go, remember, a class file, so dot nav, and this is not nav home, this is nav about. So I'm going to camel case it the same way, and just return key, and just make sure you save it into there. Cool. Then I'm going to come over to this one. I'm going to do the same thing again. Class file, dot, nav, and work. That's good. Return it. Same place. That's good. Yep. and click outside of that, and it should have changed color. Yeah, and this just for the final one there, same thing again, nav, and you can see all the other ones appearing here, and I'm just basically going to call this one, I'm not going to go contact, I'm just going to keep it nice and simple and just con, and that's cool because this is the name of the class file. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, and just return key, and we're just going to save that in here, and there it is. But of course these haven't taken on any formats. Let's go and have a look. There they are down the bottom there. So all we need to do to make it really easy on ourselves, so much easier than doing it over this side, is that I just want to get that information in here, which is just that, to make it the same. We don't want, well, we could have different buttons if you wanted to, but maybe not. And I'm going to place that in there, come down to the next one, place it in there, and then just come down to the next one again, which is the final one there, and place that in there. Now I might want to just clean that up, just to keep it nice and clean, just because it looks better. And one more there, and it's all lined up. And of course, look at that asterisk, just go and file, save all. So there's our buttons and our structure. Now we're going to do a rollover effect soon, and in fact we're going to set all these things up. You can see straight away we're starting to get things working, but I don't really like the look of this at the moment. So let's just go and tweak this up. It goes so close to the top, doesn't it? So I'm just going to come back to my source here, and let's see if I can do something with the header, all that header stuff. Well, actually, come to think of it, the navigation is in the header, but maybe we can just break up a few things. So the first thing is header there. So, well, that's on the header. In fact, we can just come back in the header here. And margins. Well, I'm just going to take it, see what's happening at the top. I'm just bringing it down, just so that I can type in a value or just drag it to suit. And also within my nav, because I don't want it to be so close to that logo, maybe I can just click in here, just the navigation. So the nav here, and if it's missing, we can just scroll it out like so. But anyway, the navigation, if you can't get it fitting, or just come along to the nav itself, even easier. And all I want to do is the same thing. I just want to push it down a little bit. Now, how hard was that? So we can put any side there we want. Let's see what we've done with the nav. It's just written that for us. So there it is with a little top margin and asterisk. So we just go save all. So wow, we're going pretty good. I'm just going to do a test of that. So just out of view here. So, and Safari, just a bit hard with the video format there, but still, there it is. So that's looking pretty good. It's liquid. Starts to crash when you go too small there, but don't worry, we're going fine for the time being. Basically, it's just running out of room there because of some of the other graphics. So all is good. We're really going really well at this stage. So let's get on to the next video. We're going to format the other things. In fact, I think we'll do a rollover being the first thing we'll do next. Right, let's get our navigation rollover effects. Actually, they're not rollover effects, they're hover effects. Working with that rollover feature is called hover in CSS. So let's see, how do we do that? Well, what I want to do is I'm going to create a different state here. Okay, so an easy way to actually do that is just with the names of all the graphics here. We have dot, about, etc. We're going to do a state. Now here's a little trick on how to do this. So I'm just going to come down the bottom below this, and we're going to do just our navigation, and this time we're going to do it all code. So to do a link, it's the A tag. Okay, so we have A, and what we can do is just divide that up with a dot. And look, it's knowing what we're talking about, so I'm going to go and I'm going to click on my nav home here, and what I'm going to do is I want to give it a state which is a hover. So I'm going to use my colon, says my colon, and we don't have any gaps here, we just want to have hover. Okay, so there's no gaps there between the two, just note that. And now I'm just going to come up and I'm going to do my opening curly bracket. So just shift and just go to the curly brackets, and there's curly brackets, and essentially what I can do is just return that down there, and we're basically good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see how we need to save that. So I'm just going to go save all. And what we're going to do is we're just going to play with some type effects and the background effect. We don't have to do everything. Now let's see what I want to do. I want to do the color here. So I can go into just maybe the color because it's a hover state. So I'm going to do it just by color. And note we're doing American, not English writing. So color. And so that's good. Color background color. We'll just go color. And let's see what colors are down here. I can use any of these ones, or I can use my color picker, which will bring up my specific sets. And I want to now just do this sort of a secondary color. So from my color set I've got up here, you can just add a new one in, and then I'll just click outside of that, and there it is. Now you see what's happening here. We have to close it off with a semicolon. Everything has to be closed off. Okay, so we don't have to worry about any of the states because we've already got our hover one there. So what we're going to do is just going to change the color of that type, and that's what it's doing at the moment. So oops, I don't want to do that. Remember the 6 here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops, did I just go too far? And I did, I think. And we're just going to close it off with just a semicolon. Semicolon. That's great. And just going to return it down to the next line. So let's see, we've got background color here. So I can do the same thing, which is going to be the background color of this graphic. And I'll just start typing that in. Background, and should just be visible down here. Background color, you can type it of course. And I want this to be my color picker again, and I'm going to do a darker color. So I'm going to do it this one now. So that's the one there, and just click outside that. It should type in there, and just semicolon. And if I just scroll that down to see there, now we don't need to do everything. We're just changing the things we need to change. So if I just simply come down here and I'll go save all again, and look at that. So we've created our rollover effect. Okay. So what you need to do is the same thing with home and hover, as well as about and work and contact. So I'm going to do all those just offline, and the next one we're going to start building the graphics here. Great. Now we've got all of our buttons all working, and if I click onto that, you see it also is an actionable link. It just doesn't go anywhere yet. Right, so let's start building our other files or other graphics or our other structure with some CSS to design it, if you will. So the next thing I want is just my heading. Actually, I'm going to come down here as we go through here. See, this is in an aside. So just going to the side panel, and just to give a bit of an idea how this is looking, is I'm just going to come through here and just drag this down just to reveal it into preview. I'm on a Mac, and great, this is going to be an aside. This is going to be an article, and it's going to be in a box with some nice curved corners. Then a little bit of a section here with a graphic, and then the footer. So that's where we're going with this one. Now I had a panel through here, a little bit of a banner. I may or may not put it in there. Hey, it's up to you, to whatever you want to do basically. Okay, so let's just go through, and I'm just going to bring my Dreamweaver back and start on that. So what I want to do is highlight this like so, and then I can basically come over here and just start a new select, right? Well, yes, I could, but not quite. What I want to do is just with that heading and sets on the side there, I'm going to create a class file. If I click on that plus, what I'm doing is I want to create a class which is a dot, a period, and then the name, and we're going to camel case it. If you're going to do IDs, it's a hash key, and you can only have one, which is the same name per page. But anyway, I'm going to stay with a class file with this because I can more easily do it, and it's just a nicer format to design with for what I want. And I'm going to call this aside, and I'm going to camel case it. So aside and left. Okay, so if you can see this, it's in the side, all lowercase after the dot, and then the camel casing is where you have the capital letter to indicate the next word. So now I'm just going to hit the return key, and I'm going to add it into my CSS file. There you go. Boom. Great. And now it should be over on here, and there it is, aside left, just appearing nicely. Now let's go and have a look at what we're going to do with this one, because just want to start designing it into place. So I might just drag that down there so we can see it. Here's my side left. So what I'm going to do with this is I want to actually bring it into the design just like we saw before. So click on the side left. So let me see, what can I do with this one is I want to just really play with type, but I'm going to move my graphic or my layout to fit accordingly. So the first thing is I click on the layout here, and then we're going to have just the width, okay, and if I click on that, remember this is the top one up here, it was in 70% of the screen, 70% of the 100% of the screen, whatever size that is, and so I'm staying with percentage for this one. So the width, right, I do it 70. Well, no, I'm not going to, because I'm going to start off with 2 columns, at least for this screen view that I'm working with. So if I just click on that there and just double click again, I'm going to just say, let's say I'm going to go through at, say, 30. I might even do 35. Okay, 35% that is. Okay, so that's the width. And if I just click outside of that, and I click onto this, and it should just highlight, there's 35%. So we've got a whole lot of space, 65% on that side. But I want to move it over. Now, of course, we can change it if it's wrong at any stage. So here's the width. So with on that same graphic again, I'll click back on here, and I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. And what I want to do on the margin, I want to bring in our normal 15%. So just double click, and I'm just going to put in 15% on that one as well, and just hit the return key. Oh, just before I hit the return key, I'm going to come over this side and just give myself just a few percentage here. I might just go 3%, and we'll see how that goes, just so I have a little bit of space on that side. Maybe it could be 5%. I'll tell you what, let's go with 5 and just keep it all measurable at this stage. And I'm going to hit the return key, and there you go, it's moved in here. So with this heading, this graphic, it's actually in the side panel, and it's actually an H1. So if I just click on that, I can actually also hold my control key and click on it. And as you can see, I can, basically it says select parent tag, and then it goes up into just the parent. I'll just try doing that again. So you'll see select parent tag, and it just came back up into the heading here. So I might have jumped away a little bit there, but the parent tag is what's holding it together within that structure. So just to quickly look at that again. So there's their side. And you see the class name that's in there, by the way, as well. We've got classes, it's in the side, but the name of it is a side class. We could call it anything we want, actually, just want to keep it really relevant. So just within that file, I'm just going to come back to my Webby CSS and make sure I click back down here. And I want to do something with the type now. So let's see, I'm going to click on the type here, and we could give this, oh, it was a heading 1, so we could play with the actual name of the heading 1. I think I'm going to jump just above that and not do a specific heading 1, but actually I'm going to play with the font size itself. So the first thing, I wanted to stay with the text. I'm going to go font family, and actually I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to stay with just a normal web file, which is just Verdana, okay? And now I'm just going to go where it says the font size. So there it is there. And I'm going to do something which is actually working with M's. So if I click on that again, see how we get M's here. And I'm going to give this something about a 1.8. We'll see how that looks. 1.8. Not 11.8, but 1.8. It's going to be pretty big. So M's are pretty big, essentially. It's actually an M is a measurement, like you have point sizes, but it's quite a bit bigger. So when I just return that, you see how big that is, and that's sort of kind of looking quite good. Again, I don't really like the color for this one. I want to use my white, so there it is, and just click outside that. Straight away we're getting this coming together. And what else am I going to do with it? Well, I want to give it some quite nice little feel to it. I'm going to give something like a bit of a drop shadow in here. So let's see, drop shadow. I'm going to click on the not the underlying color here, but if we come down all the way through there, we've got basically, we can have a shadow effect and with a color effect, and we've also got a blur of that. So I might also blur it, but let's go and just put in a color. I'm going to use that same color that was before and just put that out there, and I'm just going to offset it as well and just drag it out. See how it's coming out? So I'm just doing it very visually at the moment, and now I also want to blur it, and just to get more blur again, I think. Too much blur, but you can see how you can just save it, just put it together just nicely. So that's looking quite nice, but of course we can come back and change it at any stage, just to give a little bit of grunt to that size. And you see what's happening down here in the coding side of things. And of course, with this heading on the left-hand side, we can change it to whatever we want first. But because I'm working with my home page, I'm just going to actually just come back to my source code now, and where we've got just our subhead down here and it says heading, I'm going to just call it home of the, and there it is, just filling in nicely. And I'm happy with that size and happy with the type style at this stage as well. Of course, what should we do? We better come up and save it all. So we've got our heading, and you can see the space that we're occupying here. We might find that's getting too wide, but remember we can come back with that width at any stage to make that smaller. So that's the first part of putting the heading together. What we're going to do is just a subhead and some paragraph head, and that's just going to be the next part of putting this together. Okay, so let's do the second part. This is going to be a subhead on the right hand side. It's going to be in a panel with nice curved rounded corners on it. And then we're going to have some paragraph text that goes in there. So let's go and do that. So let's come down here. This is the article this time. So there's my article. I've got that sorted. But I'm going to come up here again and just click on like this. And without actually just changing the article, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just click on the plus here and dot, which is for a class. You see what other classes come up if we want to use them again. Not a div tag, as well as a div as being in a box, but not an ID where you have a hash rather, but class with a dot, with a period. Okay, so what are we going to call this one? Well, I'm going to call this article, spell it right, and I'm just going to call it right. So that's the name with it there, and just hit the return key, and then we just want to take it into the code there. So that should just be there. If I click off that, boom, there it is there. And we're going to just put that together, which was in here. Again, I should be able to just click on that, and you can just go up and select parent, and it just takes it back up to there. But anyway, the parent is the whole article there. And see, we've got our name as well. So just through there, there's our name. Let's go back and just our Webby CSS text here, and here it is down the bottom of the CSS. Let's go and put this together. So make sure, of course, we check the right one, which is the right. So I'm going to do the same thing again, but what I'm going to do is it's going to be on the right hand side. So let's actually just go and size it up a little bit to begin with. So the width is roughly, I want, double click on that, I want about 30%. So 30%, and that's the width. And I also want to just come down and if I scroll down a little bit further, and what I want to do is just this one puts 15%, but it's going to be on the right hand side. The other one was the left, this is the right. So 15%, and I'll just plonk that in like so, and boom, there it is. And here it is still over the side here. Okay, we've got that on at the moment. Now there's one thing that I want to do between two of these there, is actually I want to float them. Float, as in floating in water. I want to float left. This is on the left hand side, and this one I want to float right. So what you can do is, I'm just going to go through here, I'm just going to do it this time, and we can actually set up there as well, but I'm just going to go float, and here it is, float, and I'm going to go to right, and this time I'm just going to close it off with a semicolon. And here it is now starting to go over to this side. Okay, so that's fine, but what I also want with this left-hand one, because we have got it lining up that well just at the moment, is I'm going to do the same to this one. So I'm going to click up there, and I'm going to float it to the left. Now just so you can see what I'm doing with this, so if I was to click on it here, and if we just scroll down here, which should be just on layout, we've got float, and float right, float left, and this is going to be clear both, or none actually. Okay, so clear left, right, or both, but this is when we want to get rid of the float. I just want to put on here for the left one. So click that in, and you see now it's starting to line up a little bit better because we've got a float left on this, and the other one we've got a float right. So let's start just formatting this just a little bit. So this is going to be an H2 heading, if you will, or we can actually set it up. In fact, what I'm going to do is I think I'll do it with actually setting up an H2 header. So to do that with it, I'm going to come back just under my source code, just make sure I've got it selected there correctly, which will be down here, subhead, and I've got just my H2 there, and I can come over here and just actually add one in. So there you go, and I just want the H2. So this will actually just target all H2s on the page, but I just want to bring this up to make this a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to click on this, let's see, type, I'm going to come down here, font family, just going to double click in Verdana again, and that's great. And let's see, black might be fine for the color I'm using at this stage. And there's my subhead, so I can add anything into it at any stage at all. But now I'm going to go back out and just target everything. You'll notice that just down here, this is a paragraph text. I can set specific paragraph as well, but it's the P tag, just paragraph, and I'm going to leave that as is just for now. But what I want to do is I just want to target my whole article here. Now, hold it. This is just outside of the paragraph text, that is, outside of the article. So what I might do is I just want to target all of that article, because I just want to get the graphic working together as one, and I'm going to put it after. In fact, I might just return it and just paste it in there and just scroll that down just a little bit, and I might just return that just so we see a bit of space, so it makes it really clear. Okay, so that's the article. I might even clear these so we can see them nicely as well. This space doesn't make any or matter at all, but just so it's for ease of seeing it, etc. So here's the article here, and I'm going to go up to my article right, because what I want to do with this particular one is I'm going to give it a background color. And to get the background color, we can just simply go to background, which is basically just there. Now hold it, there's a little bit of a problem here. Inadvertently, when I went down here, I clicked the H2, which means I'm just going to do that graphic only. I want to get the whole of the article, which is here, from top to bottom. So just be careful about what you select on your selectors. especially with a limited screen size that I'm working with. So I'm going to click here, see how it's getting everything now. That's exactly what I want. So now I'm simply going to go through and let me see, we want background color, and I'm going to choose this nice warm color here. Just click it again and click outside of that, and there you go. Now at this stage, what I want to do is I want to give it some indenting. So let's just come back to down here, and I'm going to come down here, and not the margins at this stage. We might put a margin on there. Just for now, I want to indent it, or pad it is a better term. So let's just bring this in, and you see what's going to be happening on the screen there. See, that's probably more like it. And yes, I'm much happier with the way that this is looking, but I might actually also increase just the view down. In fact, I might even just put a bit more text in here as well. And the above it at this stage is fine, and the padding on the right hand side, maybe I might need just a little bit, just in case. But nonetheless, things are looking pretty good at the moment, that is. But don't worry about the text up here. We're going to sort that out in just a minute. And of course, if I just come over to just my border control here, and if I just drag that down here, I also want to just make that all linked up, and I'm just going to drag some curves into it. Now look at that. Now that's looking pretty wonderful. So what I might do, just to get a little bit more interest in the text here, because it is a little bit light, I'm just going to come down, and with that paragraph text, easiest way to do that is just going to copy it a few times. So you can bring in any text you want. I just want to get a bit of space there, and I might just full stop. I might just give it a bit more space and just plonk a few more lines in there as well. Okay, that's looking pretty good, and just give it a full stop at the end. So we've just got some text here. So we've got our structure coming together nicely now. So what remains to be done at this stage, of course, is we're going to have two more lines. We're going to have this graphic that appears there, and they're going to have just the footer, just the official site graphic down here at the moment. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to put a graphic in here, so just content, I'm just going to type graphic just for now, and there's the graphic in there. And just for the official site here, I'm going to go official type for the metaverse. There you go. So that's going to be the type that goes down on the bottom here. Okay, so great, we've got that sorted, but it's not looking too good at the moment, does it? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refresh the scene there, just make sure everything's good. Of course, we need to save this. So I'm just going to go save all, and so we now need to bring that down. Okay, so the section here, this is where I want to do a graphic for the section. I'm just going to actually not worry about labeling that one. I'm just going to use the whole section and just come back in here and just add one more in there. Oops, to just make sure I'm on the selectors. So it's this one up there. So I just want section. Okay, so that's good. So I've only just got one on the page there, and I'll just click out of that for now and then back onto it. So there's my section right at the top where the graphic is. And what I want to do, just for a start to bring it down, is I want to knock it and clear both of the top ones. Boy, do you remember hearing that or seeing that a little bit before? So I've just come down onto the layout here, and if we scroll down here just a little bit further, remember these two? We had float, and here's one that says clear. I'm going to go to clear both. And where's it gone? It's actually gone down to the bottom here. So there you go, we've cleared both the top and the bottom. So we won't worry about the spaces here, because we're playing with a little bit of probably extra percentage being taken up. So if I click on that and click on that, you might see that it's still not touching there, but we'll just see once we start clearing that a little bit. We can use some inverse percentage as well, or pixels to, or just in order to bring it up a little bit, and you can see how that's going to come together. But just for the time being, we've got this graphic here or this file here, I just want to come back down to my graphic here. So that's the section. So let's just go and just play with the section like what we've done before. So we're just on layout at the moment. That's the first one here. So just the width here, I'm just going to go 70%. So there's 70%. I'll just return that. I want to come down and just come down to the margins here, and this one 70%, so it's 15 just to fit everything else. 15% that is. So I'll just type in that one, and then the same on this right hand side, 15%, and that should actually just have it sorted there. Just hit the return key, and now we've got that fitting in quite nicely. I actually don't really want that graphic at this stage, which is down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in the graphic, and actually I can link it directly into the background, or I can drop it in there as a graphic. Well, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to link it in through CSS. So let's go and get the CSS so we can just have a little bit of a look at that. So there it is. Here's the section. And we've got making sure we're on the right one. So here I've gone off it. So make sure you do click back on it. And I'm just going to go into my background here. I just want to get that all nicely aligned. That's just going to fit that graphic nicely. And I'm just going to click on, not background color, but background image, enter URL to the graphic, click on that. And what that should do is come up with my graphic here. It's in images. So I've got a few videos that are appearing there as we're going through this, but really all I want is that color panel. I'm going to go open and see, there it is just starting to appear there now. So we can play with its height and width and things like that. So just number one, I think that's looking pretty good the way it's stretching out there, but I can just go through and with this, if I just take it down a little bit, I don't want it to repeat. What I also want to do with just my background size, I just want to not contain it, but I just want to cover it so it fits beautifully in there. And one thing I might do is if I just come up just to the layout here, I'm going to give it a height. I'm going to work within pixels this time, maybe just say 30 pixels. Of course we can change this at any stage, so px, and then I'll hit the return key. And so I've just got a little bit of a height there with the height of it. Maybe not so much. So maybe we can actually just drag it up a little bit bigger as well until we just get it to the right height. Oh, now that's great, and that's about 40. Actually, might just take it to 50. So just 50. Make sure you do type in your px. So we're working with pixels at this stage, and that's not 15, but 50. That'll be close enough. So that's looking great. Now we just need to start lining things up to get everything more aligned to working nicely. So we might even want to play with some text a little bit as well. Oh yes, what have we got? We've got our footer down the bottom. So let's go through and just go back to our source here, and just with the footer, I'm just going to highlight that. This time I'm going to put a bit of a panel in it just to make things work a little bit. So remember to come up to your selectors, click on plus, and here's the footer. I just want the word footer there just to target that. And with the footer, if I just click outside there and click back, now I just want to actually give it a little bit of a background color to start off with. So background color, click on that. I just want a nice deep gray for this one. So click that again. Or maybe not that dark, that's probably a bit better. And yes, I'll stay with that and click outside of that. And you'll see that that should be just starting to appear there as well. Again, just like before, we can give it a little bit of space. And I'm going to have some type that's in this one as well. So what I can do is just give it a little bit of a height here. And I'm just going to stay with pixels and just drag it up a little bit bigger to fit. And if I scroll that down there, that's looking about the size that I want it. So maybe about 30. Might just type that in there. And that looks great, 30 pixels. Let's click outside of that. And then we just have to go in there and just size it. So let's see, still in the layout, the width is remember it's just 70% that is, and just when we come back into just down to not the padding, but just down here to our margins, 15%, just to get everything fitting nicely, and then just 15% on the other side. So 15%, and I think if I just hit the return key, that should be starting to look pretty good. One thing I'm not happy with that type there. So with the type, what you can do is, gosh, you can actually just come back into the type from here, just get that all lined up, and we just want to come down and get it centered, and there's a text alignment centered, so it should be just fitting in there nicely. What I'm also going to do is, I don't like the color, so if we just go up until we get to our text color there, just making sure on the text, and I'm just going to give that color, just nice white, etc. And what I might do is just give it a little bit of padding. It's not just fitting too well at the moment, so just a little bit of padding within that. So come back to here, which is just a layout we're working with, and just a tiny little bit of padding, or I might just drag up the top a little bit. Very visual. That's what's so good working with this, to get it just looking just nicely, and there you go. So we've got everything in place. Well, one thing I will get rid of is just that word graphic. And when you've got empty spaces, you don't want to just leave empty spaces like so, because it's there's nothing in there. We didn't put the graphic in there. We're actually just running that through the CSS. So we have and non-breaking space. So basically all you need to do is just the ampersand and non-n BSP, and as you see it's coming along here, it just indicates space. So just to keep things all working so nothing collapses, and we've got our file all good to go with most of the stuff in there. Just need to sort out some of the alignment. So that's what we're going to do next, just do the alignment. Okay, so here we are ready to try and sort our alignment out. We've got the graphic all sort of starting to fit nicely, but definitely some funny spaces there. Now, first thing I want to do is just make sure I save all, because we've got our asterisks up the top there. So I'm just going to go save all, and I'm just going to come back into the Webby there, and let me see. Well, this is where we need to start playing around a little bit, just to see how we can fit things with the CSS. So I'm going to come into the code view. It's a lot easier. And just for the start, this is the side left up here. I'm just going to take this and maybe drop it back to about, say, 30. Okay, and straight away see how that's brought that up. Let's see, we've got a margin right. Well, I could actually lessen it there as well. So if I just click on that, we can see that it's pretty close there. And, or maybe that was fine, but I just had too much space on the margin right that was going over. It could have been 3% and whatever. So this is where we just need to play with it. I'm just going to stay with this at this stage, and let's have a look at my right hand side as well, just to see how that's looking. And if I just click on my right article here, float with 30% and padding right top, maybe I should actually just put a little bit now on the margin just on the top, just to bring that down a little bit. So that could be the easiest way to work, but we can go to and fro just to get it working nicely. So article right here, and just on the layout view here, and just going to come down, and I'm just going to go stay with pixels and just drag that down. See how it's moving it? So we've got all the finesse under the sun, and at this stage I like that as well. I don't like it being so close to the bottom, so maybe we can actually put a little bit of margin on this one as well and just drag it down. See what we're getting here? And straight away we've lined up things really nicely. Of course, better go and save all now. So we still might be tweaking this to a degree to get everything working just as we want, but nonetheless we've sort of got everything sort of looking quite good. We've got our links in here. Of course we could have a lot more boxes, a lot more content. So just for the initial look and feel, it's probably a good time to test that. So I'm going to come over just to my preview here, and I'm just going to click on that, and should just out of view here, I'm going to preview, just say in Safari. Okay, and look at that. It's actually not looking too shabby, not looking too bad. And see how it's moving around? I'm sort of pretty pleased with the way that's come out without too much work. Although I suppose it has taken a bit of time to get here, but it's looking pretty good and it's still working nicely. But see what's happening there? We need to do a media query and a breakpoint because it's breaking the menu there, and we need to probably break it about this point here, something like that. So now just before we do that, we're well on the way to sort of getting this essentially going, a bit wide at this stage. But anyway, let's go and just close that for now. Hold it, before I close it, well, I'm actually going to close this by closing it here, but I've got another little website up here, and this is Google Fonts. Just want to actually play with some fonts a little bit. So we can use typekit fonts from basically working with Adobe, etc., but you're not just limited to that. So I just wanted to try one with the Google fonts, and it basically does the same thing, just to make something a little bit more interesting. So I'm just going to scroll down here and see if there's any fonts that I like, and let's hopefully they're all free for the ones I want to do as well. But just getting this here, I might do something just a little bit more scripty with it. So as that drag it through here, as I take it down here, I'm here. Here's something that I want. That's great. So if I click on that, and this is a font I want, and basically if I want to download it, can I download the family there? And if it's a free font to use, I'm just going to go and download that family. Okay, and I'm just downloading that file. So that should have downloaded. Right, now the file actually downloaded to the downloads folder. I've just drag that through into my web root folder, and we've got a few fonts here. Now just make sure that you've got the readme to verify that you can use this and everything's okay, and if there's any rules around how it's used, etc. Here's the variable font, means it can utilize these at all the different sizes. It has a variable nature to it, but nonetheless, there's the font I want, and I'm just going to go back to my Dreamweaver, and let's just go and load that in. Now what I want for this one is my H2 head, just to make it a little bit different. So I'm going to make sure I'm on that, and then I'm going to click on text, and instead of Verdana, I'm just going to click on that. And now if it's not visible to you at the moment, I might just drag this a little bit higher so we can see what's going on here. I'll just bring that through like so, so make sure we can get it. So font family, font style, no, we want to make sure that it's right up in here in the text, and it's where it said Verdana, we see manage fonts. So with the manage fonts, what I want to do, we're using a TrueType font here, so I'm just going to browse to where that was, and there you go, that's into my dancing script folder, which is basically here, dancing script, and the one that I want to use is just this one here, and I'm going to go open. Now here it is, and I've got it visible. What we're going to need to do is, if you're verified to use that, and I can click on that, then I can go add in here. Now I've got a few other ones that I've used for other different things, so we can use our own custom fonts. So I'm going to add in there, and we have our dancing variable font, and I'm just going to go done. And what that should do is, and if I've got that quickly done here, is it's loaded in. But hold it, why hasn't it changed? Well, let's go and click on it. In fact, any of these other ones I can click on, I've added before. I can just click on that, and there it is. So we've got that variable font that comes in here. Now, if I don't like that, I can just go back to where I was again. So I'm going to come back to my H2 heading here, and I'll click on it once more. And down under just when we've got the heading here, and we've just got the sets that show up. So I'll click on that. Just with the font, if I click on that, we can change that to maybe one of the other ones. And I'm going to try this one. And I might like that better or not. But these are all Google fonts which have been brought in, or most of them. It can be with Typekit with Adobe as well. So I've got this particular font, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag that back out. And what you can see here is that I've got a couple of extra style sheets. I click on this one. This was the dancing script, and this was the Pacifico regular. So either, but I've got both here, and I need to load all these up within my root folder or the fonts as well, and it calls these fonts to be able to play. So at the time being, I've got my subhead here. We could go back with the subhead and change the size, whatever. Just for the sake of this, I'm just going to leave it as it is, and we're sort of quite good to go with our files here. Now remember the asterisks here, so whatever we're doing, we need to just go and save all. So we've got it all saved all, and now we're actually ready to do something like actually playing with a media query or a breakpoint. So to do a breakpoint, we're just going to drag in our sliders, and we need to make sure this graphic here, see it's off at the moment, is on, because this is going to do the breakpoint for us. And if I take you all the way through to the bottom of here, you can actually watch what's going to happen when we do these breakpoints. So I want to break it. You can break it as many times as you want, essentially, basically what looks good, but I'm just going to drag it in here like so. So I'm dragging this in here until I get to probably about 800, which I was looking at going to as my max size here. And maybe just drag it a little bit further just at this point, so 800 or close to, but all I have to do is just basically click on there, and this is going to create a media query, or click just there actually, and there it comes up, and you see it highlights here, and I just want to make sure that that is just 800, so 800, that's great. And I'm just going to stay with maximum width for this one. Create a new CSS file. No, I'm just going to go and put it into my existing file here. So not create a new one, but just drop it into just my style sheet, which is just visible here. Or no, I won't do that. Why? Because we're already on the style sheet here, and that's why it didn't come out. I want my webby one, and it's going to go down the bottom here. So just be careful of that, because it can easily happen. So basically define in page and just go OK. And you'll see what's going to happen here once that's been defined. And I just go File, Save All, and you're going to find that just in that same file there, we drag down here, there it is, just the media query, and it's 800, and this is when it's going to break. So to make sure that any of these graphics we're working with, which is actually the main two I want to stay with at this stage, in fact I might do all of them because I want to make it a little bit wider as well to fit this space, is that we actually need to accommodate, and also instead of having 2 columns here, just go back to 1. So how do you do that? Well, what we need to do is come up at any stage with all the ones that are changing, and basically I'm just going to do that with my header here, because the header contains the navigation as well in this case. So I'm going to just click on my header, and I'm going to control click on it. And here it says duplicate, and then we want to duplicate it in to that new media query. So I don't need to do these ones because they're all part of the header, but I do need to come down here and do my aside left and duplicate that into there. My article right, duplicate into the media query. I also want to do my section because I want to make this a little bit skinnier, or wider actually, and I'm going to duplicate that in there. And let's see what else. We've got our footer, and I also want to drop that in there. Okay, oops, making sure that I did put that into duplicate media query. So if you've done a couple of extra ones, like I might have just then, we can just delete them out, no problems. So if I just bring this a little bit higher just to see what's going on here, and we've got our media queries that start there. So header, that's great. Side left, side right, section, footer, and that's everything I need, etc. So what I'm going to do with this one is I can just actually change it on the fly down here. It's actually easier. So I'm just going to make this a little bit wider. So I'm just going to make that 10. 10, and of course the width here is going to be 80, just so it's a bit wider. And the height is fine for this one, so that's great. And you could actually start seeing that's going to start acting as soon as I actually save that. So I'll just go save all, and it should actually start accommodating to the extra size down there. But anyway, we'll see it in just a bit. 80. So down on the next one, we want to, in the same media query, I want to make the width basically 80 and make this 10 and 10, and essentially the rest should be all pretty much the same, except for, I'll tell you what we don't need now on this one. We don't need to have clear both, because it's not going to be clearing these two top graphics. It's just going to appear there. So I'm going to get rid of the clear both for down here and just move that off, and then come back up to the article right here. So width is going to be 80 for this one as well, so just 80. And the margins, we're going to have a right and left margin for this one, so I'm going to make that just 10, and I'm going to put my margin back in there just by returning and go margin, and that was right, so I want to just go margin left and just make that 10% as well. So 10% there, and just close that off, and that should be great. And this should be starting to change as we see all these things coming together. But I might have just gone, why hasn't it changed? If you just have a look up here, we're outside of our area. So just need to click back on this bar at the top, and kaboom, there you see the changes starting to happen. And see how that's starting to fit in there now? So let's see, up in the article left, we want to take that to 10. On the margin right, we want to have that as 10 as well, 10%, and we want to make this one just 80%. And voila, you can see that everything's starting to come together. Now we've got a little problem here. Why is that? We've got this actually sticking out the side here. Why? Because we actually played around with some padding. So just on the article, which is the article, the article right here, which was just down here, just make sure we're on the right one, we basically had our padding here. So what we need to do is just make the width just a little bit thinner to accommodate. So I might just try 70. And, well, that's gone too much. I might just try 76. And maybe just 77. It's not too bad there, but you see we've got a lot of room to just get things fitting nicely. Okay, so now we've got that done, well, let's have a look at both sides. So there you go, we've got the full width, and if I click on the media query, now it breaks to 2, and it's just a little bit wider here. Right, now let's do something a little bit different. What I want to do is also have a bit of a gradient that goes down just on this view, make it a little bit whiter or lighter at the top. So what I'm going to have to do is, in my, basically, when it's in this view here, if we go back to our global settings at the top, we had everything included. And this is the body, this background. So I'm just going to go control click on the body, and I want to duplicate that in there as well. And that's going to be right at the bottom of this view. So let's just go and split it back up again. And I'm just going to go to my WebSTART, and you can see right down the bottom we've got our background. Now we're going to add a few extra things in here, and it's going to be a lot easier doing it on this side, making sure we do click on the right media query. So I'm going to click on here, and I've got my body. Make sure we get on the right one here. So I'm going to click on the body, and what I want to do in just the background, I'm going to add a little bit of gradient. So if you come down here, you can see gradient, and if I click on that, what I want to do is just do this a little bit of a light gradient. So up the top here, I can actually just slide that in and just get just a hint of white. Down the bottom here, I want to take it all the way down to the bottom. So it's just a slight touch of white, and essentially we're not going to see anything happening here. We need to be in this view over here for this to happen. And you see what it's writing down here? All this transparency. So there's quite a bit of work doing that, much easier to use the software. But if I come over here, we don't see anything changing. Why is that? We just have to bring it up to the top, just above the background here. And to do that, see how we can go backwards and forwards? If I click on that, it's just brought that touch of white back into it, or the lightness, etc. So now if I come back to that background, I'm going to double click there, see how that one's darker and this one's lighter. So whether you like that or not, at least you can do it that way. So I'm just going to go File, Save All. So there's our backgrounds, and I'll just drag that back down a little bit. In fact, I might just go to Live View so we can see everything and both sides there. So now actually, if I just come down to my preview, and I'm just going to go into Safari, and there you go. As we drag it in, drag and drag, oops, there it's snapped back into that single view. Okay, now it's going a little bit too tight at this stage, so that's really what you have to determine on how the maximum width is going to show so it doesn't stuff our menu. Now we can go to the menu and make it even closer together if we wanted to, but for the sake of this video I'm just going to leave it at that at this stage, and I'm just going to close this view here, and I want to come back into my files. So click it back onto the files. Whoops, I'll just bring that back, not click right off it, but you'll see just the files just up the top here. So I've got a whole lot of videos in here which we don't want, which I've been adding up, but these are the videos just recording the session, so I certainly wouldn't want to be loading these up. But what I can do now is I can just duplicate other pages, because we've got all these other pages here. And so this one I can just go Command D, I'm on a Mac, and here it is. And I'm going to just call this one, oh, if I just double click on that, should actually just reveal it. Okay, and I just want to name it, there you go. So this one's going to be About. So just all lowercase. So there's the About. Click on that one. I can click on this one and duplicate it as well. I'll click just here actually, just duplicate it. And this one's going to be, if I click on that one again, don't want the copy. Just a bit hard to sometimes get it going. There you go. And this one's will be just Work. And let's see that one, and then one more. I click on just that graphic, Command D again, and it was just Contact. So I'm just going to double click on that. Just a bit fiddly to get this within the video. And there you go. And we just want this one just to be Contact. And basically that's all of them. But what I'm going to do, as you see, they've all opened up there. So if I just click back on, in fact I might just close these, and I'm just going to make sure that they're all opened up again. So we just got Home here. I'm going to go through, I'll go to About. So here's my About page that's just opening up. I'm going to go back to my split view, so I've just got the code in here. So Home of Heading. Well, I'm going to come up to this one because this is the About page. So with the About page, where it says Home of Heading, I'm just going to be put, just so we know we're going to a different page, and I'm going to call it just About of the heading, and just refresh that. There you go. This one, I'm going to come through just to the Work and open that up. And because it's Work, I'm just going to go Work. So we can change these pages around as much as we want. Well, we've done all the hard work for ourselves, so we sort of really don't want to do that. And of course, make sure we go Save All, and it's saving everything at the same stage. And then just the final one there, just open that one up. And then we're just going to have down here, Contact. So Contact, refresh, and just go File, Save All, and each one's got a slightly different name. And you see now this is just breaking through into this side. So we could still play around with it and just start tweaking up some of the cascading style sheet just to make it work a little bit better, because that is probably just a little bit wide at that view. But nonetheless, just for the sake of putting this together, let's go and have a look at it now. So I'm going to just come back and just test it and go to my Safari view and home. There is the home, about, work, contact. Now, why didn't it get contact? So just to come back in here, basically I've missed one of the links here that hasn't actually successfully gone to that. So I'm going to have to make sure I've spelled it correctly, HTML, that looks correct. So I'm going to have one issue, which is in just the link. So depends on which page had the link, but if I just go back to my, well actually my contact page, if I go to my home page there, well, let's have a look. And we've got class, we've got work, and contact, about, and it's actually just taking you through the pages, work, HTML, and hrefs, contact. So here we've got the problem. We haven't actually put the HTML in there. Easy to make that mistake. TML, and great, it's in there, and I'm just going to go save all. But you see, we're going to have to go through and just do those pages again. So at the moment I'm just in that contact. So if I came back to my home page here, and if we go back down to just our split view here, and we just come back onto this particular link here, which is the work one, you're going to find just down here, making sure I'm on my source code, that we actually load this back in here. So .html contact, and just go file, save all, and I'm going to actually have to do it to each of the pages as well to make sure that everything's working. .html, and that's great, and I'm just going to go file, save all. Now it doesn't take too much time, but you can see that it's really good just to get everything working nicely here. And I think there's one more, which is the work one. We seem to have that in there. So let's just go and test that again. So let's go through test in Safari, and onto the home, there, contact, and there it is working. So that's how simple it is to basically put things together. And of course, when we drag it into any of the pages, you can see how it changes. So well done on getting your responsive website design put together. So one little aspect of just getting this ready to go is just basically setting it up to upload all of our files through FTP. Okay, finally, just to finish off, we'll just test it once more just to see everything's okay. So just down into the test there, Safari in this case, we've got our file. It's looking pretty good, right through to responsive, to the mobile version, and as it gets wider, everything should be good to go. Sure, it can have some tweaking at this stage, but at least we've got the formula together. So I'm just going to close that, and one thing to finish off, we need to upload these files. So what we do is we can turn on our server, and this is our server up here, and then just click on any of these files to upload the whole site, or we can actually just upload different pages as we want to upload them. So I'll just come back quickly to my Dreamweaver again. Now we will notice if I just do move this, I've got all these extra files, so I'd certainly take these out of here so you won't get this great big list of files we want here, just because I did the videos in making this file. So nonetheless, how do we do that? Well, I'm just going to come into my site here, and I'm just going to go to manage my sites. The one that I was using is just this webby one here, and I'm going to click on just this edit button, and this is where it comes up. This is how I link up the site initially to get all the structure in here. Then I'm just going to go to servers, and now I can just add a server in here and fill this out. The server name, and this will be supplied to you, what you need to do, FTP, file transfer protocol, and the address you need, normally port 21, the username, whatever your name is using, along with the password, of course, save that. You can just test it to make sure it works there once you get all linked up, and that will show it's working. The root directory, quite often just a / and whatever, and of course then your URL. your address for your website can go here. There is more options just for a few little tools you can click for the proxy, but normally that's all you need to know or need to put in, and then you can save. And I'll just cancel that, and I'll just go done here, and then you can just upload your files from here. So you turn your server on basically just up here. Okay, so thanks for watching the series of putting this together, this short, quick episode into getting it all going with HTML, CSS, and Dreamweaver. Thank you.